The Galactic Academy's Xenobiology wing had seen many species pass through its reinforced doors, but none quite like the humans. When Lena arrived as the first human instructor in the Academy's 3-century history, the administration had prepared protocols, safety measures, and emergency evacuation routes. What they hadn't prepared for was her complete disregard for fear. Varen was a problem. The young Krillian, barely past his molting phase, carried the reputation of his species like a badge of honor. Krillians were apex predators from a death world where the gravity crushed bones and the atmosphere burned lungs. They were the enforcers, the shock troops, the creatures that made other species step aside in corridors. At 2 meters tall with obsidian scales and retractable claws that could shred titanium, Varen embodied everything the galaxy had learned to respect, and fear. The incident happened during Advanced Threat Assessment, a course designed to teach future galactic peacekeepers how to evaluate and respond to dangerous situations. Instructor Thelmora, a veteran Sicilian with 4 decades of experience, was demonstrating proper containment protocols when Varen interrupted. "This is ridiculous," the Krillian growled, his translator barely capturing the disdain in his native tongue. "Why do we learn to cage threats? My people simply eliminate them." Lena, observing from the back of the amphitheater-style classroom, raised an eyebrow. She had been quiet for most of the morning, allowing Thelmora to lead while she familiarized herself with the students. But something in Varen's tone triggered a response. "Interesting perspective," Lena said, her voice carrying despite its softness. "Tell me, Varen, how many species has yours conquered through elimination?" The classroom fell silent. Students from a dozen worlds froze, their various appendages, tentacles, and limbs locked in place. One did not challenge a Krillian directly. "Not unless you had a death wish." Varen's head swiveled, his predatory eyes locking onto the small human. Compared to his imposing frame, Lena looked impossibly fragile. Barely 1.7 meters, no natural armor, no claws, no venomous fangs. She stood there in her simple academy uniform, arms crossed, waiting for his answer. "We have brought 17 species into our empire," Varen said, his chest swelling with pride. "Through strength, through superiority. And how many has humanity brought into the Galactic Union?" Lena asked. Varen's translator made a confused chirp. "Humans do not conquer. They are too weak," Lena smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. 243 species are part of the Galactic Union because of human diplomacy, intervention, or alliance. We didn't conquer them, Varen. We convinced them. Which do you think is harder? The Krillian scales rippled, a sign of agitation. He took a step forward, and 3 instructors immediately moved toward panic buttons built into their podiums. Lena didn't move. "You mock my people," Varen hissed. "I'm educating you," Lena corrected. "There's a difference. Now shall we continue the lesson? Or would you like to keep posturing?" What happened next would be discussed in academy halls for years to come. Varen, pushed beyond his adolescent restraint, did something no student had ever done. He activated his combat pheromones and dropped into an attack crouch. His fangs extended, each one dripping with paralytic venom, his claws unsheathed with an audible snick. He released a challenge roar that made the building's windows vibrate. Even Instructor Thelmora, who had faced down armed insurgents and space pirates, took an involuntary step backward. Students scrambled away from the confrontation. Emergency alarms should have been triggered. Security should have been called. But Lena just smiled wider and said, "Good, now we're getting somewhere." She walked toward Varen, not away from him. Each step was measured, confident, and completely devoid of fear. The Krillian, confused by prey that didn't flee, held his position, but his eyes showed something new. Uncertainty. "You want to know why humans don't scare easily, Varen?" Lena stopped just outside his claw range. "It's because we come from a world that tried very, very hard to kill us. Predators? We had dozens of species that considered us food. Diseases? They wiped out entire continents of us. Weather? Our storms made your typhoon season look like a pleasant breeze. And do you know what we did?" Varen's fangs remained bared, but he didn't strike. "We thrived," Lena continued. "We didn't just survive, we turned our predators into pets. We domesticated our food sources. We built cities in deserts and tundras and jungles. We went to our moon not because we had to, but because we wanted to see what was there. And when we finally made it to the stars and met species like yours, do you know what we felt?" "Fear," Varen ventured, his voice less certain. Relief, Lena said softly. Relief that we finally found someone else out here. Relief that we weren't alone. And curiosity. Oh, so much curiosity about who you were and what we could learn from each other. She took one more step, now well within his strike range. So bare your fangs at me, Varen. Show me your claws. Release your venom. Do all the things your instincts tell you should make me afraid. But understand this. Humans didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain through fangs or claws or venom. We did it through persistence, intelligence, and the ability to see potential where others saw only threats. Lena extended her hand, that peculiar human gesture that had confused so many species. Now, are you a threat that needs to be eliminated, or are you a student who's capable of learning something today? The amphitheater held its breath. Varen stared at the offered hand, his predatory brain warring with something new emerging in his consciousness. Slowly his fangs retracted, his claws withdrew, his scales settled into a neutral pattern. He reached out and carefully, almost reverently, touched his massive claw to her small palm. I am a student, Varen said. Lena's smile transformed into something genuine and warm. Good, because you've got potential, kid. Now let's talk about why containment protocols exist. Not because we're afraid of threats, but because we're smart enough to preserve them while we figure out if they're actually dangerous or just misunderstood. As she walked back to her position, the classroom slowly released its collective breath. Instructor Thelmora looked at Lena with newfound respect mixed with disbelief. Later that evening, Varen approached Lena in her office. Why weren't you afraid? He asked. Lena looked up from her datapad and considered the question. I was, she admitted. Fear is healthy, it keeps you alert. But I learned a long time ago that showing fear to someone who expects it only reinforces their assumptions. You needed to learn that intimidation isn't the same as strength. And if I had attacked, Lena's smile returned, this time with a hint of mischief. Then you would have discovered why humanity's most dangerous trait isn't our technology or our diplomacy. It's our complete inability to recognize when we're outmatched until after we've already won. Varen left her office that night with a new understanding. Humans weren't weak. They were something far more terrifying. They were unafraid. And in a galaxy built on hierarchies of strength that made them the most dangerous predators of all.